I liked how last week people were trying to figure out when exactly Adam Silver would drop this suspension. Of course, tried to sneak it in on Friday for the weekend. Get it in there so they couldn't get the first takes and the get-ups to comment on this. But Silver's statement said, Ja Morant's decision to once again wield a firearm on social media is alarming and disconcerting given his similar conduct in March, for which he was already suspended 8 games. The potential for other young people to emulate Ja's conduct is particularly concerning. Under these circumstances, we believe a suspension of 25 games is appropriate and makes clear that engaging in reckless and irresponsible behavior with guns will not be tolerated. For Ja, basketball needs to take a backseat at this time. Prior to his return to play, he will be required to formulate and fulfill a program within the league that directly addresses the circumstances that led him to repeat this destructive behavior. Message received, guys. Problem solved.
Well, tentatively. We'll see how it goes. We'll see where we go with this, you know?
Do you guys think that the video that came out later of Ja Morant using a fake gun as a lighter, do you think that this stuff helps his case or hurts it? I think it hurts it.
I just just
drop it.
Ask advice from someone who's not your homeboy. That's all I'm asking, because clearly this is homeboy advice. Hey man, just get one of them lighters, and then they'll think it was just a lighter all along. Shut up. I don't want anything gun related. I don't want the Nintendo duck hunt gun. No, I don't want you going to Florida because it looks like a gun. Like none of that shit. Just stay away from guns, all types of guns, water guns, super soakers. Don't matter. Get away. Laser tag, out of the question. All of it, out. At least put some space between you and this before you do some dumb again. The 25 games to me is really interesting because everyone's like, 25 games, that's nothing. I was like, well, let's see. He's not eligible for any NBA awards.
Yeah, let's do the math, right? Because there's 82 games in a season.
If he plays a game, that's 57. That's 57 games. You're automatically not eligible for any of the postseason awards, right? Now, add on to it, the 25 games would be the first 25 games of the season. That means highly unlikely that you'll be an all-star even, right? So even if the fans are like, you, man, we really love guns and we think Ja's cool, we're voting him, you still need buy-in from the other two voting contingents, which is the media, that's 25%, and the players are 25%. As much as the players might feel for their brother Ja, they don't feel for him more than like voting for someone who's deserving, like Jalen Brunson or Damian Lillard in a Heat jersey, right? Like, excuse me, it's in the Western Conference. Let me do that again. They won't feel for him more than they do for like, well, I don't know, Devin Booker or, Steph Curry or, even De'Aaron Fox. I mean, there are a lot of guards.
Kyrie. Don't forget about Kyrie.
Kyrie's in the West. I forgot about that. Luka's in the West. That basically is impossible. The coaches won't pick him.
Yeah.
Not only because of 25 games, but because, again, he's exhibited the behavior of a dumbass. So you miss out, basically, even though he's going to get to play this season, in many ways, the NBA history books are not going to remember this season from Ja unless they do something amazing like win it all, in which case he could win finals MVP or maybe a conference finals MVP or something like that. So they really have kind of this punishment, I think, is a lot harsher than a lot of people think.
I go in the other direction. I mean, I don't think it's a suspension at all. I don't think it actually suspends him for any of the games.
It's 25 games, Tom. I don't know. Like, there's clearly he's going to miss 25 games.
Oh, you're operating that the opening night in the NBA is in October? Is that what you're saying?
Isn't that what it always is?
Yeah.
Other than, COVID shortened season?
Mace, can you do me a favor real quick? You got a computer in front of you, right?
Yes, we're talking on it.
Yeah. Good. Just making sure. Can you go to Basketball Reference or just any schedule and look at
he's typing
when
I believe it.
This is my new Minority Report keyboard.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you got to do a lot of this, man. You got to move it side to side. There you go.
Oh, here's and there's the schedule. Yep, pulling it up.
Yep.
Got it right here.
What was if you could amuse me for a second here? What was the 25th game of the season for the Memphis Grizzlies this year? Like what date?
25th.
25th would be on December 25th.
No.
That's not the answer you want. Well,
No.
maybe I've actually pulled it up.
Oh, you actually don't.
I already reported it. What day was it, Tom?
It's actually.
Why don't you just tell me?
Why don't you just tell me what day it was?
Fine, I'll do it for you. You said you're on a computer, and now you're not on a computer. So you know what? I'll just do the answer for you. It's December 7th. December 7th. Interesting. Is that? I mean, I'm sorry. I was raised Catholic. I should know this off the top of my head. What is Christmas again? What day is Christmas?
Hold on. Let me get on my Minority Report computer. January 7th. Oh, I'm sorry. I had Coptic on. Hold on. All right. Orthodox off. All right. December 25th.
December 25th. Huh. Now, that's interesting. They didn't do 40 games or, half the season. They landed on 25, which would, if the schedule is more or less the same next season, this upcoming season, that allows Ja Morant to play on Christmas Day. Now, that's interesting because for years we thought, hey, a lot of casual fans thought the NBA season actually starts on Christmas Day because that's when most fans care about it. And now that the NFL is coming after the NBA's day on Christmas Day, Jesus Christ's Day, the NBA snatched it and now has to give it up to the NFL. This is kind of the way for the NBA to say, you know what, Ja Morant, we are going to suspend you for 25 games. But in reality, we want you still back for the Christmas Day game.
I've been working this whole time on how to make a Second Amendment right to bear arms. He's still on the Grizzlies joke. He'll always have his Second Amendment rights because he's on the Grizzlies.
I gotta
Right
get you,
arms.
Stewie Griffin, you cheeky bastard left.
Either that or he should sign an endorsement deal with the NRA.
Yeah.
Screw Nike.
I mean, if you just kind of squint your eyes a little bit, NBA kind of looks like
Almost.
NRA.
Wow. That's cool.
What that was a hell of a cold close or a cold open. This is Basketball Illuminati. I am Tom Haberstroh, and as always, I'm joined by the 5-star Lumen Army generals, Amin Al-Hassan and producer Anthony Mays, the co-presidents of the Illumination. Later on in the show, we've got Brandon Payne of Accelerate Basketball here to talk about, wait a minute, not Steph Curry. We're talking about Scoot Henderson, not Steph.
Yeah.
Scoot.
Yeah.
Scoot Henderson. He's
Scoot
coming
instead
in
of shoot.
Yeah. Trying to.
Or maybe he will be Shoot Henderson. We'll see. Talk to Brandon Payne. He'll tell us all about it, how that's going.
Was that a scoop or a scoot? Scoot on Scoot?
It's all. Yeah.
We're going to talk Davion Mitchell. We're going to talk Stephen Curry. We're going to talk about Scoot Henderson and all the stuff that he did, except for throwing up in a workout. You'll have to find out what we're talking about there.
Do that.
That's how tough he is. So we'll talk to Brandon Payne later in the program. Anything else happening this week? Oh, yeah. Talk about that sale with the Hornets. You know what? Maybe we'll wait on that one. Talk about that later. But first, Amin, during this podcast, we raised the possibility of Damian Lillard going to the Miami Heat. And I threw a little cold water on it last week. Is that water heating up now?
Oh man. It's definitely, when you put the water in a pot, put the pot on the stove, turn the stove on. And at first you're looking at it, and I've got an electric stove, so it's not like, this thing really needs to heat up or whatever. Put it on high, and you're looking at the water, and the water looks pretty still, looks the same. And then all of a sudden you see these little bubbles. They're not coming to the surface, but like it's almost like the water has razor burn all over its cheek on the bottom. And you're like, oh, here we go. That's the stage we're at right now. We were flat water, and now we got some stuff going on. The Bradley Beal deal to Phoenix. Now Miami doesn't have to do the Zach Morris, who am I taking to the prom? I'm going to try to take both, running from one side to the other side, changing a shirt or whatever.
That's the Lou
now
Will.
The Miami Heat.
Yeah.
No, Lou Will walks in with both of them. Zach Morris, you're playing both sides, right? No, now the Miami Heat, they've got no divided attention. They get to put a full court press on the Portland Trailblazers in order to prize the prize, which is a player who has gone on record as saying, I would love to play with my good friend Bam Adebayo. Now, here's the problem, and I need this. I'm telling you right now, I've been one of the biggest Damian Lillard supporters there is since he came in the league. I love his game.
Okay, Stephen A.
His approach to the game. I love everything about him. I love how he represents his team. I love how he represents.
I respect
sport.
everything about Damian Lillard.
He's one of my favorite players. But you mean to tell me he comes back and says, I'm not going to play anywhere other than Portland? What are you talking about? What are you, crazy? You're making me look stupid now. Like, oh, no. I'm out on Damian Lillard. I'm out on him.
Whoa.
Why do I want something for somebody that they don't want for themselves? Why do I want prosperity for someone who doesn't want prosperity on himself? You had your out. Just shut up and let nature take its course. Nope. You got to remind everybody, hey, guys, I want to retire in Portland, and we're going to make this thing work. No, you're not. I want someone to just on TV directly to Damian Lillard say, no, you're not. You're not going to make this work. It's not going to work. There are two options.
He can't be the bad guy in this situation. He knows that the media will destroy him if he goes and tries to force his way out.
Destroying him now. No, I'm starting to destroy him now for staying. To destroy him, destroy him for staying yes, absolutely. This is a massive.
We just watched Jokic win a championship by staying, and we're showering Jokic and Michael Malone as like, stay the course, get the right guys around you, and you can win a championship.
They've had the second worst record in the league 2 years in a row. Right? Somewhere along. I'm sorry. No, I know the nerds are going to be like, well, actually, they have the fifth worst record. They've had a bottom 5 record 2 years in a row.
Isn't Jokic a good 5-6 years younger than Dame? He stayed the course 6 years longer, and he hasn't gotten a championship out of it. I don't know if stay the course is necessarily the argument on here.
And hang tough. And let's also point out that Jokic has never been this bad. Never been on a team this bad. And that's not me comparing Jokic to Dame as a player. That's me comparing Jokic to Dame as what his team has gone through. And what his team has gone through is nowhere near as bad as what the Blazers have gone through. The Blazers have been horrendous. Horrendous. How many years have they been horrendous? Look, let me count the ways. This year, 33-49, last in the division. Last year, 27-55. Amazingly, second last in the division. Shout out to the Sacramento Kings. The year before that, you made the playoffs. Congratulations, you lost in the first round. The year before that, you made the playoffs through the play-in. Congratulations, you lost in the first round. The year before that, you made the conference finals. You got swept. And then before that, first round knockout. So 6 of the last 7 years, they haven't made it past the first round. Right? And that's with different GMs, different coaches, different running mates, if you will. He's had it all. They've done everything they can do there. Again, this is not a knock on Damian Lillard as a player. It's a knock on Damian Lillard as a realist. buddy, wake up. This ain't gonna work, man. Come down to South Beach, man. They do things right down there. They already got 2 stars. They need what you do. They need scoring. They need shooting. They need late game execution. And you get to play for a Hall of Fame coach, a top 15 all-time coach. You get to play with 2 all-star, all-NBA, all-defensive team guys. You get to live somewhere beautiful as opposed to looking outside your window and seeing gray and rain all day. You get to leave all that behind. You get to play for ownership that's committed to winning, not an owner who said, I didn't want this anyway. My brother died and gave it to me. You're like, well, what about this is appealing to him other than, oh, this is the team that drafted me? So what, man? You should have been a means inconvenient truth.
Yeah. I think when we look at this, though, we were thinking too short term. We're always looking at what's in front of us. We can't see past our nose. Thinking during the NBA Finals, after Damian Lillard's season's been over for quite a while. I remember when he went on the podcast and talked about how, of all the teams the contenders that could acquire him, which one would he want to play for? And he named the Miami Heat. I was like, man, the Heat are going to somehow get Dame without giving up Bam. It's somehow is going to happen. Somehow, some way. And what transpired over the past week has only confirmed that prophecy is going to come true. Because this Chris Paul, Bradley Beal deal, to get Bradley Beal, the Suns gave up Chris Paul's expiring contract, non-guaranteed contract. That was $30 million, but 38 years old. He's got a book out. They were about
to waive him a week or 2 ago.
Well, they did the thing that NBA teams like to do.
I'm going to waive you.
Yeah.
I'm going to dangle this.
I'm gonna do it. The date is June 28th. If no one stops me before June 28th, he's gone. I'm
going to do it.
I'm picking up the phone. I'm dialing 212.
I'm counting to 3. 1, 2.
Until someone
2.5.
I'll take it. I'll take his contract.
2.9.
Because ultimately, that is the value of Chris Paul today. May not be his value in a couple of months, but his value today, prior to getting waived, June 28th, prior to that guarantee date, is you acquire $30 million salary, and with the stroke of a pen, it becomes a $15 million salary on your books and an extra roster spot.
Now, there's some legalese, there's CBA language. Apparently, there's some cap minutia that, as part of this trade, his guarantee moves from 15 to 25 or something like that. Not the full 30, but you're still.
Yeah, you have a trade kicker?
Mm-hmm. He made money off of getting traded. Not only did he not get waived, he made more money.
Well,
it's business.
He didn't make more. He made more money than had he just been waived by the Suns.
Mm-hmm.
The most money he would have made is if he had just remained on the team. Or if he remains on the team and gets traded.
Yes.
Right. So if the Wizards keep him,
yes,
then he'll have made money.
Yes.
If the Wizards waive him, he'll have lost less money through this transaction. But
I did not quite understand when Bradley Beal got the no trade clause a year ago, how powerful that no trade clause was.
Oh, come on now. You've been around the block.
That no trade clause, it's amazing how much power that gave to the agent, Mark Bartelstein. Mark Bartelstein, longtime agent in the NBA, negotiated with Ted Leonsis and the front office of the Washington Wizards to allow Bradley Beal to say, nope, veto, not going there. Oh, nope. That's too many players gutting that team that I'm going to. I don't want that trade. I'm not going there. He had the ability to say no to whatever the Wizards brought to the table. And in this case, that was everything. That was everything. He could be up. I want to go to this team. Okay, we'll get this player in exchange for you, and we'll get it. Nope, too much. I don't want it. That's too much stuff. I want to go play with that player. He was basically being able to pick from a buffet of options, and he had the Wizards buy the balls.
Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? The reason why he got the no trade, this is why I feel no sympathy for NBA teams. The reason why Mark Bartelstein knew he had the ability to get the no trade was because the Wizards owner, Ted Leonsis, made it abundantly clear that a strip down and rebuild was out of the question. They were going to attempt to be competitive every year, no matter what. Again, that pesky friend next door reality has to say about it. Maybe Ted Leonsis and Damian Lillard should get together and have an intervention together where they're introduced to reality. Because they were so committed to, no, we're never going to strip down. We're going to keep this thing going. They became unduly attached to the best thing they had going for them. The best thing they had going for them was Bradley Beal, averaging 30 points a game, all-star, all those things. Now, never mind that if we rank shooting guards in the league, he probably wouldn't make your top 5. That's not a knock on Bradley Beal. It's just to say that there are better options out there, and that while he is a good player, I don't think any of us look at him as a fundamentally franchise-level player. He's not Steph Curry. He's not Kevin Durant. He's not Nikola Jokic. He's a good player. He's an all-star. And because of the stupid collective bargaining agreement that forces teams to limit how much they can pay actual franchise-level players, that money trickles down, and so you get good players, but not quite as great players making up that money, and that brings them up to that max level. So to the untrained eye, Bradley Beal making the same amount of money as Damian Lillard or Nikola Jokic or whatever, and you say, makes sense. When in reality, we know that those players are not on equal planes. Now, because of this, Mark Bartelstein knows this. He knows, hey, you guys are wed to the idea that you have to be good, and you are wed to the only way you can get good is through my guy. If my guy says, you know what, I'm not signing your extension, I'm out of here, well, you guys are left having to do the thing you swore you wouldn't do. So what do? You demand a no-trade clause, which, if the Wizards never wanted to trade Bradley Beal, wouldn't be a problem. Problem is, Ted Leonsis makes a decision, get rid of Tommy Shepard. Tommy Shepard is out. Michael Winger is in. Michael Winger has not had to work for Ted Leonsis before. He comes in fresh. He says, I'm going to take this job. But if I take this job, we're tearing everything down, which is a statement that Tommy Shepard could never make because he's been in the Wizards organization the whole time. And he knows my owner's not going for that. It's a different sort of leverage. So once Michael Winger comes in, he says, we're tearing everything down. Ted Leonsis says, well, they tell me this is the guy I should be hiring, so I'm going to go along with it. But now that no trade clause, which was never supposed to be a thing, becomes a thing.
So we have this trade agreed to, and according to ESPN, there's a quote in here in this story from Bradley Beal. Wait, no, it's not Bradley Beal. It's Ted Leonsis. No, wait, not Ted Leonsis. No.
Mark Bartelstein?
No, it's Mark Bartelstein.
Yep.
Mark Bartelstein has a quote. The first quote we get in this story, the quote from Beal's agent, Mark Bartelstein of Priority Sports, told ESPN, quote, "This was an extremely complicated process with so many hurdles to get through. And Ted Leonsis and Michael Winger were unbelievable partners in making this happen. From the day that Ted drafted Brad, he has been by our side, along with former general managers Ernie Grunfeld and Tommy Shepard. They've always had Brad's back in every way. And now we have experienced the exact same thing with Ted and Michael Winger. We are extremely grateful."
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be grateful for someone who paid you all that money and gave you a no trade clause and allowed you to get traded somewhere with great weather and great teammates, and we're all while not having to give it up basically in return, other than a disgruntled 39-year-old who's got to get weighed at some point. Anyway.
38.
He's going to be 39.
Unless Landry Shamet aged 10 years. Yeah. But like,
Okay.
it's not extremely complicated. There's nothing complicated about this situation. Bradley Beal wanted to go to the Suns, and they made it happen.
Yep. I mean, I guess the complicated thing was, where do I want to go? That was the complicated part for Brad.
You know what was not complicated either? The Phoenix Suns front office. Because who is the CEO for the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah, this is the part where I got to push back on all the amateur third eye openers here. We did a whole thing about, Mark Bartelstein's son becoming the CEO of the Suns, despite what many would call a relative dearth of experience all around in the industry and never having led an organization before. He came from Detroit, where he was an assistant general manager, which one would say that if he had the chops, the next step would have been general manager in this league, not CEO of a team. These are all things I pointed out months and months ago. And to see like Instagram and TikTok discover this, Bradley Beal's agent, his son, president of the Suns. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks. This is not third eye open territory. This is
this is fun.
You know, it happened on Father's Day. I mean,
it was Father's Day. He's not just the GM. He's the CEO of the franchise. I mean, I'm going to remind you, February 2014, Mark Stein reporting. Among the options that the blanks are weighing as they start to conceive a new front office team is making a bid to persuade veteran agent Mark Bartelstein to leave the representation game to join them, according to sources briefed on the matter. Sources told ESPN.com this week that the blank team have interest in trying to recruit Bartelstein into their management structure, as other teams have done in recent years, most notably with the Phoenix Suns hiring of Lon Babby and the Golden State Warriors hiring of Bob Myers. Mm-hmm. Now, what team was trying to hire Mark Bartelstein away from his agency to run the front office of the franchise?
It was the team that had a player that, this is how it always works. These agents typically represent a player of note who already plays for the team. And so Mark Bartelstein represents a great many deal of big name players. But my guess here is it's the Washington Wizards, the outside the box Washington Wizards, who, by the way, also, we kind of swept this under the rug. Remember when they had that front office structure where Tommy Shepard's in charge, but here's John Thompson III, and here's Saji Brown coming in from the NFL, and here's so-and-so. So yes, I'm guessing Mr. Outside the Box Ted Leonsis would try to hire Mark Bartelstein. Am I accurate?
Pry it open. I mean, the third eye is not quite open far enough. The third eye, once it's open, you will see none other than Dan Gilbert trying to hire Mark Bartelstein to run their front office. But here comes Matt Ishbia. What better way to bring in Mark Bartelstein? Well, not quite Mark. Why don't we just get one of his best clients, if not his best client, and we can get the heir apparent to the Bartelstein empire, his son, Josh Bartelstein. So here's Matt Ishbia. Hey, we're going to get Josh Bartelstein and Bradley Beal. Take that, Dan Gilbert and the Cavs. See ya. And now they got both. They got Bradley Beal and Mark Bartelstein because Mark Bartelstein has the no trade clause still. So they can still be playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And they got Josh Bartelstein as the CEO. I mean, it was all preordained. I'm trying to remember who was the Cleveland Cavs.
That was when Danny Ferry was out. And they were in limbo. The interim was David Griffin.
And they brought in David Griffin. So,
well, no, he was already there. He was the interim.
Yeah.
Then they gave him the job. And then he signed LeBron. And then the rest is history.
So I just all the Dan Gilbert versus Matt Ishbia war that's happening, really just dates back decades.
So 9 years before he became owner, he had the Bartelstein name circled on his corkboard of things to screw over Dan Gilbert with.
One day, I'm going to be an NBA owner, and I'm going to screw over Dan Gilbert. And when I do, I'm going to do it by hiring Mark Bartelstein's kid, who is a teenager at this point, I believe. He's probably going into 10th grade.
Yeah. I mean, you work in the mortgage industry, you got to think about futures. You're not actualizing everything in the moment. But there's another part of this story that I do think we need to continue to work that third eye for, and that is the New York Times article with Chris Paul about the book that he wrote, not even about this trade, just so happened to be getting interviewed when this trade breaks. Look at that. That's nice journalism right there. And he kept saying that Matt Ishbia and a certain someone that we've mentioned on this podcast are going a different direction with the Suns, because he was blindsided by this news. He wasn't expecting it, even though we did the whole tantalizing about to wave you behavior. He said none other than Isaiah. Matt and Isaiah. Which Isaiah is that? Is that Isaiah Thomas, who was sitting next to Matt Ishbia when Jokic made contact with him during the playoffs? Is it that Isaiah Thomas? Is it the Isaiah Thomas that Chris Haynes reported was being considered for a front office position of some kind, which Matt Ishbia vehemently denied? That Isaiah Thomas?
Yeah, in this article from the New York Times. By the way, Chris Paul knows what he's doing here. Chris Paul is he's been around the block a few times. He's the president of the Players Union. He knows how this NBA works. And when the New York Times says, "Hey, remember we scheduled that interview to promote your book 61, which is life lessons that taught by your late grandfather." Hey, remember we have that interview to do? Oh yeah. Let's do that interview. Okay, cool. So how did you find out about the trade? Oh yeah, I was on the plane. When the text came through, this is what Chris Paul said. He said, when it comes through and my son texts me, I realized that, Matt and Isaiah, I guess, just wanted to go in a different direction. And that's when the record scratch happens. Wait. Isaiah? I thought James Jones is running this front office. And so the follow-up was, I showed the phone to my wife, and but like I said, Matt and Isaiah must have wanted to go different. So Isaiah is technically not officially part of the franchise, but like you said, Maze, he was sitting next to Matt Ishbia at the game. He was rumored to be part of the organization at the get-go. Then they walked it back in the press conference. It's interesting that Chris mentions Isaiah here to the New York Times of all publications in New York. How does this play in New York with the league office and just the New York Knicks and the whole what happened with that workplace lawsuit with Isaiah Thomas? It feels like this was a very calculated drop by Chris Paul that he knew, I'm guessing, was going to start another cycle of news stories about Isaiah's influence in the Phoenix Suns. So I'm like, who's running this thing? Because we just talked about Josh Bartelstein. We talked about James Jones. And now we're talking about Matt Ishbia and trying to get back at Dan Gilbert. And then here we have Isaiah Thomas, who is apparently running Chris Paul out of town. The other undersized point guard, Hall of Fame point guard, Chris Paul, sending him to the Washington Wizards. A very deliberate name drop by Chris, if you ask me.
And you gave me one of my favorite anagrams that I've ever seen on this subject in particular, which is Matt Ishbia. That's an interesting name, right? Maybe if you move those letters around, you might get something like, I don't know, Isaiah T plus.
Right, but then there's three letters. Bam.
Letters, though.
Bam Adebayo, maybe. Bam, okay. Isaiah T.
Okay, well, they're not going to trade Bam.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Mm-hmm. MBA. Wait a minute. Matt Ishbia, Isaiah T with a business degree.
Look at that.
MBA Isaiah T. That's it. An anagram for Matt Ishbia. Keep in mind, you might be saying to yourself, wait, there's 2 T's. Where's the extra T?
No, there isn't.
No, there isn't.
Not an Ishbia. Not a Matt.
Matt Ishbia is just 1 T. So that anagram works. Isaiah T with an MBA, Matt Ishbia. So I think, look, the irony of ironies of all of this is that since Matt Ishbia took over the franchise, his first order of business was trading for Kevin Durant and trading Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and about 18 draft picks. Then to get rid of Chris Paul and acquire another star player, Bradley Beal, it's rumored, and we haven't figured out the final tally yet, that at least 4 second-round picks are going to the Washington Wizards in this trade because they have no more. They have no more first rounds to give, but they do have swaps. So 2 first round swaps, an untold number of second round picks. And on top of that, they already sent the 2029 second round pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder last year to take on Dario Saric. Anyway, the point is they have gotten rid of all of their draft picks since Matt Ishbia took over. And James Jones told Kevin Arnovitz in a big story this time last year. Arnovitz wrote this amazing profile, a deep dive into the front office of the Phoenix Suns, and their philosophy with the draft was, we don't care about the draft. We don't value draft picks like other teams do, but we don't. We actually would rather get the Landry Shamits after their rookie scale deal or, acquire talents 4 years down the line. We think it's just, a bunch of crapshoot picks in the draft. We don't care about the draft. And they've gotten rid of just about every pick since that story ran. But Amin, you know this better than anybody. What is the one superpower of Isaiah Thomas?
That man knows how to pick players. He's excellent at the draft. I haven't seen it firsthand. He's incredible at it.
He's so good at the draft.
Don't give him salary. But give him draft picks. That dude is going to hit with laser precision. And it doesn't matter where in the draft they are.
He got David Lee at the 30th pick, multiple all-star David Lee at the 30th pick. He got Wilson Chandler at 23. Tracy McGrady, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest scorers of all time. Got him at the 9th pick when, high schoolers were all the rage. But like this Tracy McGrady guy, I'm not really sure. Gets Tracy McGrady in Toronto at the number 9 pick. Marcus Camby at number 2. Okay. Solid pick. The dude is one of the best defensive players of his era.
Generation.
4-time all defense, 1-time depoy at number 2. Lockdown, not just for Toronto.
I don't like looking at the top. I like the ones that's further down because that to me.
I'm just saying he hasn't missed. He hasn't missed. Yeah. He hasn't missed.
He's got Ronaldo Balkman is one of the ones that people point to a lot. Ronaldo
was what 21 in the draft. Like
Martin Collins is another one. I mean, so he's got a couple of because no one. Here's my thing. I've always said this. No,
these are scratches on the car. They're not a train wreck.
Nobody's perfect at this. Nobody's perfect at this. But he's pretty good, is what we're saying. Damon Stoudemire is another one of his picks.
Yep,
and that one where no one really saw coming, and he ended up having a great career.
Trevor Ariza at 43.
Trevor Ariza. I remember him as a rookie when I worked for the Knicks.
Well, that's great. So he'll be able to shadow GM for the Suns and make a bunch of great picks for them in the next 5 to 7 years. And
except,
yeah,
they kind of don't have any picks.
They don't have any picks,
first or seconds.
Oh, well, then his record will remain perfect,
pristine. There you go.
Yeah,
that's smart. That? When you got a great record like that, why mess with it?
Yeah.
So
quit while you're ahead. That's what I say.
I did a study last year on the draft value of since 1989, looking at the draft value of every pick. It's like hundreds and hundreds of picks, breaking it down. How many win shares did that pick produce in the NBA? And then I assigned the executive making those picks whether it was traded from whom to whom. And then I said, okay, well, if we know the expectation at every draft pick, if every slot has an expected value based on the curve of value in the draft, that the number one pick is the most valuable, and then it kind of decreases ever so slightly throughout the rest of the draft. If we have an expected value of each draft slot, and we know all the picks that an executive has made, can't you figure out which executive has gotten the most bang for their buck in terms of the draft? And it turns out the most amazing drafter since 1989 is Greg Popovich. Okay, maybe you knew that.
Well,
Are you adding Wembanyama to that? Does he?
Yeah, hold on. No, I think. Look, I'm looking at Tom's little chart here, and I know what's happening. Because here's the interesting thing, Maze. It says how many picks each one of these front office leaders have made. Well, Greg Popovich has been in charge since like the mid-90s. So surely he'd have like a zillion picks. He only has 12. Because what Tom has done very cleverly is only limited to the point where Pop was leading the basketball operation. Once RC takes over, RC takes the bulk of the rest of that. So if we're limiting what Pop has picked.
Well, also Pop, by virtue of being so good at that coaching and executive, whatever.
Yeah.
All their picks are the expected value of like nothing. So like they get Tony Parker, Ginobili, all these picks are gold because the expectation is you get like maybe a bench guy. So they only have had two times where they're, let's get Victor Wembanyama. Oh, let's get Tim Duncan.
The Tim Duncan one heavily skews the rest of his things because it's weight so heavily that of course he's going to have an incredible track record. If we're limiting the amount of time his picks are happening and we're saying, but Tim Duncan happened during that. Yeah, of course it's going to be the best ever.
But it's not just him. Come on. You're telling me that you're saying that it's overvaluing that pick?
Yes.
Okay. Luis Scola in the second round.
If you and I both play in an NBA season and I take 5 3-pointers and I make 3 of them, but you take 500 and you make 200 of them, who's the better 3-point shooter?
Well, I can't tell because you've only taken 6 3-pointers or whatever.
Exactly. That's my point. I only took 5 shots. I made them, 3 of them. I'm shooting 60%, but I think we can all accept that my 60% is not as significant as your 40% because your 40% happened over 500 attempts. You did this a lot and often. And I quit while I was ahead, which is what we're telling Isaiah Thomas, ironically, to do, is quit while don't mess up that track record. That's what Pop did. 12 picks, I'm out. Mwah, arrivederci. Come on, man.
You know what? All right, so Tim Duncan in 97, okay? Do you know what his next highest draft pick was on this ledger?
I'm going to guess 25th.
22nd, Bill Curley in 94.
Wow.
The great Bill Curley from BC. Beat the Tar Heels. I remember that one. Bill Curley was the next highest pick. So he's got Tim Duncan, Bill Curley at 22, Tony Parker at 28, Corey Alexander at 29, Gordon Gierczak, nice career in the league at number 40, Chris Carrawell. But Luis Scola at 56, Manu Ginobili at 57. Pretty good ledger, I would say. But my point is, this is a long walk to say, all right, if you throw out Greg Popovich, you end up with Isaiah Thomas as the best drafter in the whole database.
Does Luis Scola count when he never actually played for the Spurs? Does it count, right?
It does.
It doesn't count. It does not count.
You don't think it counts if you pick a guy and he ends up staying over there and he's still has a nice NBA career? You don't get credit.
I don't think it counts if the guy doesn't play for you. It doesn't count. David Griffin drafted Rajon Rondo, but then had to trade him because Robert Sarver demanded luxury tax relief, and so Rondo was attached to the contract of, I believe, Brian Grant, and got $3 million coming back in cash. Everyone can say whatever, But Griff, to me, doesn't get credit for Rondo because Rondo doesn't play as a Phoenix Sun.
Well, in this, if you get traded before you start your season, your rookie season, it's whoever acquired you gets the credit for getting that player.
Okay, so Scola started his NBA rookie season not with the Spurs. Bill Curley, Chris Carroll, and Corey Alexander. That's your legacy, Pop. Get out of here with Tim Duncan.
I can't. You're trying to say that Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker doesn't count. That's what you're saying.
Parker's the only one I'll give him credit for. Ginobili was like EuroLeague MVP. That doesn't count. You took the best player in Europe with the 59th pick. Congratulations. And Tim Duncan was like, literally, Rick Pitino has a whole claim to fame in the NBA because he thought he was getting Tim Duncan. That doesn't count either. So congratulations, Pop. In my personal record book, you got one great draft pick that you made.
Yeah, that's a tough crowd. Okay, so the point is Isaiah Thomas has a really great draft record. It's just everything else. I wrote a story for ESPN New York back in the day that he spent $100 million on one season's worth of players. So like 82 games worth of production on his books for he paid $100 million for 82 games of production. It was a long list. It was Stephon Marbury. It was a whole host of players that just never played with Jerome James. I forget, but it was basically Isaiah Thomas taking away his draft picks. That's his superpower. It's like taking away, I don't know, enter Marvel Comics superhero, taking away the hammer away from Thorn. Rick Thorne. Just look at it. Sorry.
So what you're telling me, Tom, is that Isaiah Thomas is shadow GMing away from his strengths to doing what he doesn't do well, which is paying established veterans a bunch of money. Matt Ishbia came in, cleared out the cupboard. He's loaded up on a very, very, very expensive team with three players essentially getting him to the luxury tax starting not next season, but the year after. They're going to trade DeAndre Ayton for whatever they can to fill out the rest of the team, and then it's minimum players going forward into a new CBA with a restrictive second apron. And then
when that doesn't work out, Mark Bartelstein rears his ugly head and says, hey, we're going to force a trade our way out of here. And then it happens all over again. There were reports that I think it was Zach Lowe who's reporting that teams were trying to get Bradley Beal and asking him, hey, would you be willing to waive your no trade clause once you arrive here? And he was like, nope, not gonna. So yeah, it just rolls over to the next team. So the Suns, Matt Ishbia now has a no trade clause if this whole thing doesn't work out. And like, should this matter? The fact that like Kevin Durant, we've talked about all these other front office guys, James Jones, Matt Ishbia, Josh Bartelstein, his dad, Isaiah Thomas. Is it Kevin Durant as the shadow GM? Because now we're operating on, he left the Golden State Warriors because for whatever reason, he wanted to start up his own team. And then when that didn't work out, forced to trade over to the Phoenix Suns. And now he's getting rid of Chris Paul, bringing in Bradley Beal. If this doesn't work out, how do we appraise Kevin Durant's ability to formulate another super team?
He sucks. Brandon Payne next.
All right, we got Brandon Payne here from Accelerate Basketball. Brandon, first question. Are you going to walk the red carpet on draft night since you've had a hand in Scoot Henderson's draft prep and the shooting? Have you picked out your outfit?
I would love to be there, but unfortunately, my oldest son has his first games in the Under Armour Nationals that night, so I will be playing the part of coach / dad that night. You know, you only get to be a father one time, and so I'm certainly proud of Scoot. I'm certainly proud of the fact that I had the opportunity to be a part of it. But, I've missed a lot of things over the years with my son, so I don't want to miss this one too. So unfortunately, I won't be there. But I'll be there in spirit. I'll be watching on TV. I'll be texting him. But I unfortunately will not be there in person.
I know we're supposed to be talking about Scoot and Steph and all those things, but Brandon, how hard is it to coach your own kid?
It's with my youngest son, it's extremely difficult. With my oldest son, it's not that difficult at all. He's a little bit more of the learner, the guy that he really enjoys the learning aspect of what we're doing. And he's a guy that depends on execution to have success. He's not really a big space creator himself. He fits a role and he plays that role well. So it's not that bad. I enjoy it. It's when they were younger, I tried to let them play for other folks. And, unfortunately, I've got a lot of experiences that a lot of other folks don't. And so I just decided after a few years it was probably best if I just did it myself and surrounded with the right people and made sure that the message was what I wanted to be, because ultimately he wants to be a coach too. He wants to be in basketball. So for me, it's not so much just about him playing now. It's really about making sure he has a solid foundation and base of knowledge to operate from when he gets to college and beyond.
I know you're working with Scoot, and he was part of the G League Ignite team.
Yeah.
And you got kids coming up through the ranks of AAU or youth basketball, Under Armour Nationals, with so many different ways to get into the NBA. When we were growing up, it was just college and then NBA. How has that complicated the whole process of just preparing for the next level when there's different levels to the next level?
Well, I don't know how much, I don't think it's complicated. I think it's just giving them more options and gives each individual a chance to select the path that works the best for them. I think that when you look at the Ignite, you look at Overtime Elite, you look at college basketball, they all have different things that give them benefit over one or the other. But I think what it comes down to is the individual. I think for Scoot, Scoot is, for a young guy, is actually pretty mature. And so I think the Ignite was a good option for him because he could handle himself. He's a worker. He's a guy that would fill his extra time that he would have really trying to do things to get better. Whereas some other guys that aren't maybe not quite as driven would leave that free time that they have with the Ignite and they kind of leave it empty, or they play video games, or if you're in Las Vegas, you can get into a lot of trouble. But it's not for everybody. And I think that examining the personality of each player, understanding the family situation of each player, understanding the goals of that year, because it can't just be about getting to the NBA. It's got to be, what am I getting out of this year? Do I need more structural understanding of how to be a basketball player in terms of the X's and O's of it? Do I need to, understand how to put my days together in terms of having my daily process of getting better? Each one of those routes gives you different things and different benefits. And I think that I like it because it gives the player the power to choose what's best for them. And I think that, I think that as long as you have the right team around you, and as long as you have the right information with all 3 or 4 paths, you make what's the decision that's best for you and you go with it.
Scoot's a little bit of a special case, though, because he didn't just, leave high school and go to the G League Ignite. He left after his junior year. He's a two-year participant in the Ignite program.
Yeah.
What makes Scoot different in that regard of being able to do 2 years of this, not just one? And also, how much more do you think it's prepared him for the league, having spent 2 years in the program versus 1?
Well, so number one, he's physically as gifted as they come. And so physically,
he is like watching some of these clips, man. He looks like they put like a 6'2" body, but like they put Ben Wallace's arms like Lego snapped into his body. Like, it's crazy how big his arms are, how long they are. He's like John Wall's engine. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I saw somebody posted something on Instagram that said, Scoot Henderson looks like a cyborg that just eats, nuts and fruits and drinks water. That's it. He is really good about his diet. He's not quite that strict, but I mean, he just, he physically could handle it, and that goes a long way towards it. But he's also very much so an alpha, and he has the ability, even amongst older players, to kind of command a little bit, and feel and create the feeling that he's in control, and guys will follow it. When you're out there with him, it really hits you every workout how explosive he is. There were points in each and every workout over those 8 weeks where I would just get caught up watching him, because you're just like, man, this is incredible. And it's, and I told one NBA coach and one executive, when it comes to him wanting to get to the basket right now, he's going to get there. If you want to stop him, you're probably going to go for a ride, but he's going to get there. And he's got a lot of ways that he can get there. He's very creative with his footwork. He's very creative with how he handles the ball in really tight situations. So I think that allowed him to be prepared to compete day in and day out with grown men, because that's what it is when you get to the G League. It is grown men.
Right.
So that's what I liked about it for him. I like that he was playing in NBA actions. I like that he's playing on an NBA floor. I like that he was playing against grown men. And I think that the statistics are a little bit more comparable and a little bit easier to evaluate because of that. That's kind of the knock when you talk about the different pathways that players can take. The knocks that I've heard on, like, maybe overtime or maybe even some of the college basketball stuff, is it's really hard to get a really good evaluation from a numbers standpoint, because they're different games and against players that are like ages, and, or even in overtime elite's case, you've got some really younger high school players playing against guys that are getting ready for the draft. And that's a tough evaluation. But in the G League, that's not the case. We have very comparable, statistics, very comparable in terms of actions that you're running, and you're playing against players that are older than you. So for him, I think it really worked well for him, and it prepared him the right way.
So Brandon, you've been the longtime trainer of the greatest shooter ever, and then you get a chance to work out Scoot Henderson, who's coming in as a physical specimen, has jets, has extremely long arms and super strong, great feel for the game, can just get into the paint. But one of the things that he has room for improvement on is his jump shot, or I guess his ability to shoot from range efficiently. So you've gotten a chance to have Steph and Scoot in the same room and shooting in the same workout. What are the do's and don'ts about getting a physical specimen and someone as talented as Scoot Henderson, and then bringing him in with this Rolls Royce of shooters?
Well, the big don't that I learned in workout one last week is don't have them alternate shooting when we're playing shooting games where if you keep making it, you keep going. Because what happened is Mr. Curry hadn't touched a basketball in about 4 weeks, and he decided to rattle off about 60 in a row in one drill, and Scoot's eyes got about this big. And I was like, I had to keep telling him, don't worry, this isn't normal. It's not normal. Don't worry about it. So, and then, Scoot gets up and he takes a couple shots. He made 5 or 6 in a row and he missed. And I looked at him and said, if I had to wait 20 minutes in between shots, I'd probably miss too.